Let's see. And we are live. Wait, LinkedIn says you're not approved from LinkedIn. Okay. Well, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. So, how's everybody doing? What's going on?
Great, Devin.
Good. Wow, hi.
Thank
How
you,
are you?
everybody, for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. We're about to get into a great conversation, one that I've been looking forward to for a while. Because at the end of the day, we're just getting to speak our truths, and more people are hearing about it, right? And it's going further. So I really want to start by introducing my great panelists here, and we'll start with Will. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Will Rice. I work for JPMorgan Chase and Platform Services. We're kind of the private cloud within the bank. I work as a product manager. I manage a product by the name of, it's actually a database product that we use called Delphix, and it does database virtualization. I said, I've been at JPMorgan for about 3 years. My career spans multiple financial services. I've worked for Citi. I've worked for a few other financial firms, Bank of America. So, been in the business for a while. My passion is really honestly trying to build more of a diverse slate for JP Morgan, trying to help us build better diversity within our team. So that's a little bit about me. I'll hand it off to how about Monique? When we start off with Monique, I'll pass the baton.
All right. Hi. My name is Monique Forward. I also work at JPMC, and I also work in Platform Services along with Will, and I too am a product manager. But my product, actually, I am the product manager for a few products in the private cloud, our MySQL offering, and then our Cockroach DB offering, and eventually a few other, anything that's kind of in the relational database space, I will be the product manager for. I started with JPMC about 2017. I think that's it. It's been 3 years, a little bit, give or take. And before that, I was mostly in consulting. About 20 plus years as an independent consultant, and with a few of the larger firms that you may know, consulting firms. I won't say who. You can go on my LinkedIn and check that out. And at JPMC, what I do as a passion project, much like Will, is work on D&I. So, and for me, that's a few things, not only things around the Black experience, but if you haven't noticed, I'm a woman. So I'm very also highly attuned around what's happening with women in the workplace and in the tech space.
Sounds like you got some Cockroach DB fans in the audience.
Good. Oh, well, we are looking to build that team out. So hopefully they'll like what they hear and they'll look for our rec.
Right.
And Savage, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, I'm Ann Savage. I've been at JPMorgan Chase for just over 4 years now. I do not work in platform services. I work in a called engineering. In my current role, I am a transformation lead. So to work with our teams around the globe for whatever the current transformation is. Right now, that's site reliability engineering. So really interesting space. If you haven't read Google's book, get the book. It took them 14 years to write the first book, another 4 years to write the second book. But now everybody is really recognizing the value of designing and developing right from start with scalability, reliability, stability, all encapsulated and all in mind right up front. My passion is also in the diversity and inclusion space. I like to think that I'm spending more time lately focusing on the inclusion piece, and that's great. Like Monique, my diversity and inclusion is not restricted to just the Black experience, but I happen to be a caregiver, so I also am involved with our accessibility business resource group, which supports our employees with disabilities and who are caregivers.
Wonderful.
Amazing. And in case anybody didn't hear, because it sounded like in the beginning and cut off, she said she's in sustained engineering, just in case anybody didn't catch that. And one thing that you said that struck me, you said you're in D&I, but you focus on the inclusion piece. And I know this is such like I guess overused question, but I'm curious because you said it. What does inclusion mean to you?
Okay, I've heard this metaphor told many times when we talk about the difference between diversity and inclusion. Diversity is getting invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance once you get there. So
I like that. I like that.
Bringing people to the organization, but if you aren't creating an environment where they feel included and respected and valued, they're not going to stay.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I hear that. And along that same vein, I'm seeing a trend, especially this year in our industry where we're more so addressing people as they are rather than under this POC label or this general diversity label. I'm curious and this is for anybody, this question, what do you see is the value in that? Like from a business perspective, but also from a personal and just like emotional perspective, right?
Yeah. For me, I think the biggest thing is let's talk about the business value first, because I think what is inherent to me about JPMC and Jamie is that the one thing is that we're a business. And the one thing that they understand is that diversity drives the bottom line, the Black bottom line. However, you need to also understand what that diversity is. You can't simply, before people of color, it used to be minorities, right? And then we all got lumped in. And the idea is that then you lose a bit of the diversity that each of those groups bring. So to me, it's very important that there are strategic initiatives that speak specifically to the diverse groups as well as to the umbrella. As people of color, we share struggles, but also in our individual groups, we have unique struggles that are not quite the same. So, and even inside of our groups as Black people, there are struggles that are not quite the same because there's diversity in that. But ideally, if you can target those groups, and then what you do is then you do get that umbrella, a kind of an umbrella of diversity across that people of color that includes not only, for me, the Black struggle is uniquely different, just like the indigenous struggle is uniquely different than other people of color, mostly because of our relationship to the land and to the country. So I think that's something we have to always think about.
That's very true. We have a different history here. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I want to add to what she said, because I definitely think she hit it spot on. That moniker POC, persons of color, hasn't served us well. I mean, each group within non-whites have their own unique challenges. I think we would all agree on that, but we can't solve this underrepresentation by grouping people, because everyone has their own unique challenges. Black people especially. I think we just, there's a lot of other challenges that we face, right? I mean, bluntly put, POC just doesn't really work well for us. I think that it's just too broad. We need a targeted approach to reach Black folks. I really feel that that's the only way we're gonna change the dynamics and get the diversity of Black folks in our organizations changed, right? Because I think we do well in other Asian populations, brown populations, but specifically when you look at Black populations in a firm as large as we definitely know we have work to do. So when I thought about the question when we talked earlier, I was reminded of a quote by James Baldwin. He said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And I think that's a powerful statement. It sounds trite, but it's very true when you think about it. You must face the problem. Like, how do we target Black people? How do we specifically? And I think up until recently, we kind of said, well, we're looking at people of color, but that was just all lumped in one large bucket, right? And Black folks just, we weren't at the head of the table, right? We were, going back to what Ann said, we were invited to the party, but we weren't being asked to dance, right? I mean, I think that was part of the problem. I think after Obama won in 2008 in the election, people felt that, post-racial society, I think that played a large part in it. I think we were far from that. I think the George Floyd incident basically kind of highlighted that, right? We still got work to do in our society. So, look, I think it's a complicated yet it's simple. I mean, all these other non-white groups have their own specific challenges, but I think we especially, I would like to maybe use an analogy of an emergency room. There might be a bunch of people in the emergency room. Maybe there's a broken bone. Maybe somebody has some stomach aches. So you're in this emergency room, but then a trauma patient shows up. And you're like, whoa, I'm really, that person is in bad shape. You realize that your little emergency is nothing. I mean, I look at us as that emergency room trauma patient coming in that really does need special care and really needs that attention. And at this point, I think, the society has started to recognize that people of color have been overlooked and definitely need some special attention. So that's how I look at it. In terms of business, it's a missed opportunity not to focus on people, on Black folks especially, because, we come from a unique perspective, right? I mean, we have, there's the cat. I knew it was only a matter of time. So, we have a very, I don't know, I feel like we are the trendsetters. I feel like that Black folks bring a lot to the table, but that it's just not being recognized. So I think businesses are really missing out if they really don't see the need for hiring and getting to that Black talent because of our creativity. I mean, Black folks have done more with less for centuries. I mean, we've had to really, really make lemonade out of lemons. I mean, that's just what we do. So, I think just coming from that perspective, I do think that this shift from POC to Black has to happen, and the leadership must change and think about, well, how do we specifically target them? Because we're just different. We have a different history.
I definitely agree. Ann, do you want to talk? I don't want to cut you off.
Just one really practical reason why it's necessary to address each of these ethnic groups differently. The same outreach channels, the same actions, the same activities aren't going to resonate with each ethnic group in the same way. So if you're yelling at me in a way that doesn't resonate with me, if you're trying to connect with me in a way that doesn't resonate with my culture, with my experience, doesn't matter how great your message is, I'm never going to receive it. So we've got to be thinking about the very different experiences and specific things that are important to each of our ethnic groups, especially Black people, to ensure that not just the message, but the way we're delivering the message is going to resonate. Otherwise, it's going to be a wasted opportunity, like Will said.
Yeah, the POC term allows companies to skate, in my opinion, because what that does is you ask someone how diverse you are, and they're like, oh, we're plenty diverse. We have lots of people of color. You dig into those numbers, and those, especially in tech places, they're very diverse. But they're diverse amongst Asian, Southeast Asian. They have a bigger mix. Then you get to look at Black numbers, and you get to look at Latinx numbers, and you see, oh, they're not as diverse as they think. Or like I said, the same thing they used to do with minorities, and they say, oh, we're diverse. We have a lot of minorities. They count women as minorities, and a lot of those minorities would be white women. So when you have those big labels, it makes it very hard to see what's really cooking, in the pot.
This is absolutely true. So, just from me thinking about what you said, from a practical perspective, why a business should do this, right? Like, think about this. Businesses make focus groups all the time, right? Like, we go in and we figure out, like, okay, I need a little bit of this kind of people, that kind of people, and that's enough of a mix that I can generally figure out this is how the population will feel about this product. And we do that because at the end of the day, there's a monetary incentive behind that. We're building something to sell something. Now, I feel like we should be looking at our staff the same exact way, because when you're making these products, the people that are in the room, your product managers, I'm talking to Will, talking to y'all, you know what I mean? This is the people who are going to be sitting there and creating the features. You want diverse perspectives sitting at the table, figuring out what that's going to be before you even get to a focus group.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Every time I always think about that because, especially when you think about, I'm a woman, so I'll use this. When you think about design and product management and how many things are built to men's specifications,
Yes.
because there are no
Mhm.
women in the room. From seat belts to even heart attacks. Women experience heart attacks completely different than men. But if someone was to say, what are the signs of the heart attack? Most people will tell you the signs that they've been told, and those are signs for men who have heart attacks. But if you have a diverse person, if you had a woman in the room, then she can say, "Hey, we also need to include these symptoms for women." So you're totally on point, Devin. When you're building a product, you want to have a team that looks at it from all different vantage points. And we see people who don't have diverse teams every day fall on their face. Think about
Mhm.
the Gucci stuff with the little. There was not a black person in that room who said that might be taken crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly your point.
And I mean, to a certain degree, it also may be, us speaking up, right? Because who knows, there may have been a black person in the room, but that decided, like, yo, you know what?
Yeah, the
Say something,
environment
I'm
wasn't
gonna lose my
good.
job. you know? So,
Not necessarily
Well,
that, but
Or
if
ignored.
you find the only one and your voice is shut down in those rooms, you
right.
there again. It's like being at the party, but not getting a chance to actually participate in the fun that's going on at the party.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yes, is some of that speaking up on us? Absolutely. But it's really hard to do if you are forever the only one in the room and there's nobody who has seniority, who has clout, who has gravitas in that room, who's saying, hey, hold up. Monique has been trying to say something for the last 10 minutes. Let's hear what she has to say. She's in this room because she value to this table. So
Hmm.
let's get that value into the conversation. We've got
Right.
people in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's even more complicated than that to some degree too. Um, the notes I took was, Cheryl Dorsey. She's a black entrepreneur. She was in journalism, and for whatever reason, she was trying to kind of start up her own blog within whatever company she was operating out of. Um, and she's like, yeah, I like to kind of talk about the black experience in technology. And she went to her management, and they just weren't hearing her, right? Just like your analogy, and it's like they were like, yeah, it's a little niche. They didn't get her, right? And then she went off on her own, and she started up a blog post that's now subscription based, seems to be doing very well, called The Plug. And it talks about the black experience. So you probably shaking your head, Devin, you know about it.
that's
Um,
my own girl.
yeah,
That's
she's
it.
very
She was
dynamic.
on a panel for us last year.
She
The
did.
one,
Okay.
the one that y'all sponsored.
Yeah, shout her out. And she's doing really well. So look, I admire her chutzpah to say, you know what, I'm going to start my own, since the corporations didn't understand where she was going with that, and the fact that she's like, look, we'll build our own platforms to tell our story and to talk about what black folks are doing in technology. Because as I said before, we're overlooked. There's a lot of black folks doing some really nice stuff in technology, but you never hear about it, right? You
Mhm.
would think that these, technology, we all know about Bill Gates, and we hear about the folks that are doing things, but the black folks doing some really nice, slick, hot stuff, it really isn't pumped up. So a lot of folks who are in hiring positions just don't see black folks in that forefront, because those names just don't come across in the magazines and in the media that we see. So that plays a part in the positioning of blacks in technology, and I think we need to change that narrative.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% true. But and what's crazy is that we actually, in terms of business, and I'm not saying that there's enough, because we definitely need more, but we actually are in a lot of places that people don't even know. I guarantee you find a lot of young black gamers and ask them who made Twitch, like
Yeah.
they have no idea
No
that
idea.
man. They have no idea that it's a black man named Michael Seibel that's also the CEO of Y Combinator right now. Like, they have no idea of how powerful that guy is. So
Right.
there's a list of names that I can come and give you, like, that are actual, like, who I'm forgetting the woman who runs TaskRabbit, but she's a CEO. You know what I mean? Black woman.
Okay.
So like it's out there. Okay, so
Yeah.
definitely
Look
shining.
at what Morgan Braun is doing with Blavity and Afrotech. Like Afrotech they just did their big virtual world. And I didn't get to go because I had already taken the week off before, but I went to Grace Hopper virtually. When I saw what Afrotech did, Grace Hopper had nothing on that. Afrotech made a full virtualized world to go to their conference, meaning you had an avatar, and those were all. That's a Black founded company, a Black woman founded company. The staff is Black. That whole innovation came from them. Nobody was doing that. I hadn't seen any other conferences do that, where you were entering into the world as if you had an avatar. So you were going to the conference with your own avatar. You were going to you were kicking back and networking in these places where a guy was DJing with his own avatar. You were dancing in the club after the conference seminar. Like that's hugely innovative. And that's us. That's what we do.
Exactly. Thank you for making that point.
I saw some speedboats happening. I was like, oh, this is good. I like this.
I was like, Morgan, you did that.
Yeah. And I mean, just the fact that, you know, there's a resilience to it where they said, nah, we're going to make this conference happen this year. Right. Like, I like that. Right.
And it wasn't just a bunch of Zoom links. Right. You know, that was the thing about Grace Hopper is it was, you know, they weren't able to get their recruiting up, so they had to do that off. And then it was very disjointed. This felt like they thought about it and they really collaborated on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a point that I always think about that I'm curious how, you know, y'all might address a certain caveat to addressing each and every, you know, group who is considered a minority, POC, whatever we want to call it, every culture, they're not a monolith because it goes past race, right? Especially, and we're not going to get into politics, but especially with politics now and, you know, the polarization of the nation, Black people aren't just one type. You know what I mean? You can't just assume that our beliefs are what they are because of the skin color.
Yeah.
So how do corporations address that? When I'm trying to have that diversity amongst Black people and be inclusive when you're there, how do I address that?
So I will tell you, at JPMorgan Chase, we recognize that we are all more than just one thing. Our degrees of intersectionality can how just think the mathematical formula for that, right? And within JPMorgan Chase, what we try to do is provide opportunities for any one of our employees, every one of our employees, to get engaged where they feel comfortable, right? We have 9 different business resource groups for Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, women, people with disabilities and who are caregivers, for veterans, who am I missing, for LGBTQ, and even next gen for our younger employees. And we have employees who are literally members of every one of them. I am. Most of us are members of at least 2 different business resource groups. Additionally to that, we have a lot of other different types of affinity groups where you can get involved. We have what we call Ignite groups, and those are communities of interest. Are you interested in DevOps? You can join the DevOps Ignite group. Are you interested in Agile? Are you interested in Python? Are you a non-coder who wants to learn how to code? We have an affinity group for anything that you want to do. And if we don't have it, guess what? We have a way for you to create your own.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you.
Sorry,
go ahead, Devin. I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought up intersectionality in, because that's what I always talk about. Probably because we live there as Black women, basically. So I'm always the person in the room when I am when I'm in a Black event and I'm the only woman. I'm asking, where are the other women? if I'm in a women's event and I'm the only Black person, I'm asking them, where are the other Black people? Like making them think about the idea that, hey, this needs to be a cross section. If I'm doing something on vets, I want to see all colored vets, even though vets is the pillar. Guess what? We've got Black vets, we got white vets, we've got everyone across the rainbow, women, men, all they fall underneath that. Same thing. So it's a really for me, that's a big deal to always make sure that you are looking to see where everyone is and always making sure that you are looking to use your privilege to make sure those people are included. As a cis hetero woman, I have to make sure that I can make sure that my trans women are included in things. Even though I don't have as many rights as a white male, I still have more rights than those trans women. And those kind of things you have to do.
I definitely agree. To Anne's point before, it sounds like she's really talking about intersectionality. Somebody actually in the chat had brought that up. At the end of the day, you know, like you said, we're not all monolithic, and the whole point of creating these resource groups, these ERGs and such, are to create that intersectionality. Because when you find out, like, oh, you know, you may be thinking in your mind as maybe an Asian person that I don't have much in common with a Black person, or as a Black person, you might not feel like you have much in common with a Jewish person, or whatever it may be, right? And you can't have these conversations. But at the end of the day, if you both go to that veterans group, it's so much that you'll click on, and you're like, oh, it don't matter. This right here is not. It's who cares?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it creates that sub layer of interest that y'all can kind of connect on and really see that people aspect. You know what I mean? Of the other individual. So I like to hear that. And you know, Monique, you were bringing up something along the lines of I'm forgetting. I think it was kind of like individuality, but basically, I kind of wanted to talk about the fact that we're basically realizing that there's a mindset about being intentional, right? When you're intentional, it shows. It's not just like, I'm going to do this one thing. It's more so, this is how I live, right? Like, and people are attracted to that. So when you do that as a company and you have that as a culture, at the end of the day, people are attracted to it, and you will get candidates in droves. You know, like the best example I can think of, I say this all the time, is Ben and Jerry's. Because at the end of the day, they sell ice cream, and ain't nobody asked you to be political. But for some reason, when I scroll down Instagram, I see you giving me facts about the prison industrial complex, right? So how do y'all feel that we can be intentional? And one, y'all already doing this. So, you know, tomorrow, tune in, everybody who's listening, they're doing a tech showcase, which is going to show all the teams that they're currently hiring for. And you'll get a chance to actually network with some of the business individuals over there. So my question is, like, how do people really go about being intentional and showing that that's what they're doing outside of just like a one event or, you know, a photo op or something to that degree?
Write a $30 billion check.
Yes, there you go. That's the big one.
Yeah.
That is the big one. Right there. Right.
And the thing about Jamie Dimon, when he writes a check, he's not just sending money. He's marshaling JP Morgan Chase knowledge, experience, resources, research, and he's sending teams to back up those checks. He didn't just write a check to Detroit. We've deployed hundreds and hundreds of people to work with the city leaders, to work with nonprofits, to work with the citizens of that city to ensure that those dollars are used in the best possible way to ensure that city uplifted as a whole, and that there aren't, you know, 5 guys who are writing checks and taking 20% off the top. That's not how Jamie Dimon uses the firm's resources.
And brand, right? I mean, there's a brand behind that too, right?
Yeah. I think example, for me, it is the walking the walk, right? It's one thing for a leader to tell you, oh, I'm invested in this. And then you look at his directs and you're like, you're not that invested. I don't, they all kind of look like you, right? Mm-hmm. It's another to have a leader say, I'm invested in this. And the reason I'm invested in this is here's what I've asked my team to do. And there's a list, right? And this is how I'm going to check that they're doing it. And there's accountability. Those are the things that I am seeing happening in our firm, which let me know that it's not just this kind of, because let's be honest, some of this from George Floyd has been to get on the wave, right? To ride the trend. It's trendy right now. We're what's popping. We're be a black square on Instagram. And yet we see how the votes shook out. A lot of people just posting black squares. So for me, it is about walking the walk and showing and being able to show that they're accountable, how you are making people accountable. And then when those people are not, that you are actually following through on what you said. What's really great for me is, I would say maybe the first 6 months or 6 or 7 months when I came to JPMC, I would watch Jamie was on the town hall. And he asked, his director was interviewing him, and he asked her, how many black people have you hired? Because he's serious about it. Like, he's not playing. Like, he will ask you, like, he called her out, like, how are you going on that? How many women are on your team? Like, he's serious about being diverse from the, all the way down. He's like, I'm asking my directs. I expect my directs to ask their directs, and so on and so forth. So that's always great.
We hired Brian. Right.
Mm-hmm. Brian.
Yep. So that's at the top of the house, right? So he's our chief diversity and inclusion. So, from a cultural standpoint in the firm, they are really sending the signal that this is not just, some passing flash in the pan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. I agree. And it sounds like the common theme here is accountability and like really feeling like there's some skin in the game, right? Like you said, not just signing the check, but making sure that you have people that are checking to make sure that whatever the check was signed for, the actual purpose of the check was actually fulfilled, right? Like serve the community that it was supposed to. So now that's a nice little transition. I want to know, what are some of the things, the programs that maybe people aren't aware of? And I mean, I'll just let them know off of the bat. If you weren't aware, last year, Mavens 2019, our annual Black Women in Tech Conference, they sponsored that. And we appreciate y'all for that, unless y'all know that. Two, if you don't know the story, JPMorgan Chase was actually the first company that reached out to us when we were smaller. We did we were starting off with the Black Software Engineers Meetup. And before we were even a nonprofit called We Build Black, Nora, shout out to Nora, she called me up and she said, hey, first thing out her mouth, what can I do for you? And I looked at her crazy. I was like, what do you mean? You're JPMorgan Chase. Like, I don't know. Like, it didn't make sense to me, right? Like, I didn't know about sponsorships. I wasn't business minded at that point. But the point was, I felt her intention, because the first words out of her mouth was that, how can I help you? And I am looking to get more Black representation at my company, right? She knew exactly what she wanted. She was being intentional. So I'm gonna say that off bat. That's from my side. What are some things that we may not know of, that the public should be aware of that you currently do?
Advancing Black Pathways is the first thing that comes to my mind, which is kind of the Detroit stuff that Ann was speaking of. But it is you can Google it, it'll come up for you. But it's kind of like this 3-tier approach to help Black people expand their economic power. Because at the end of the day, we all know what talks. I mean, we work at a financial institution, but again, we always know that money there is power, and power there, you are able to wield a lot of things. So the first thing is to help people kind of figure out how to unlock that. That's the big one for me. We also there's always a ton of things for me that we work on in the D&I space, in the sense that there are different slices of our D&I sector. We do have Brian, who is at the top, but we have lots of volunteers who work on a lot of different things. I'm locally I'm in Houston right now, and what we've done in the Houston site, they do something called Diversity Days that they've started. What they do is they invite all of the HBCUs that are local, and then they also invite all of the NSB chapters and the Black BSUs from the other local companies that are here. Houston has an inordinate amount of universities, so basically, and what they do is kind of similar to what you're going to have tomorrow. It's kind of a little showcase. We kind of just talk about the bank. The diversity days are not only just focused on tech though. We also focus on the business. So all the people who are out there who like to stock trade and do all the finance stuff that our tech supports. But the idea is to have a bunch of bright brown and Black folks come, hear about us, talk to us, network with us, tell us about them, and build that pipeline. And then the other things that I'm personally kind of working on are really around retention, because like Ann says, it is about the inclusion. Like, you can't stay diverse if you can't keep the people there. It's one thing to have this wonderful pipeline of bright young minds, and you bring them in. If they don't stay, then it does you nothing, right? So the thing is to work more on inclusive programs. So, for me, the big push for me has been trying to get us to have formalized exit interviews and things, and figure out how we retain people and stuff like that. So those things kind of happen at a smaller level, but they are happening around the firm from my peer view.
Yeah, one thing you had, I'm gonna let you go, Ann, real quick, but I just wanted to point out the fact that when you said ABA is really focused on, financial empowerment, I actually, that definitely resonates with us, because at the end of the day, we created this. We've changed it, for a while. Like, we had a slogan where basically the whole point was to create tech opportunities for socioeconomic change. It wasn't just about teaching you tech. It's so that you can actually use this to either get a job or to create a business. Because at the end of the day, and hopefully you create a business, because I want you to create some sort of generational change. But, you can, generational wealth. But at the end of the day, you can always get that from, being an employee at an early startup, or, get those Google stocks. that's always the thing. But at the end of the day, it's just different. You know what I mean? So, Ann, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about some of the things that we're doing in Jersey City and the rest of the tri-state area. One of the organizations that we've partnered with is All Star Code, as well as Girls Who Code. And what we're trying to do is start to build that interest in technology at an earlier age. High school is a perfect time to start getting, young people really jazzed, not only about technology, but what technology can do, the doors that it can open for them. And it's not just a JP Morgan Chase, right? We All-Star Code spend a lot of time working with their young men in what everybody calls the growth mindset, so that they recognize that the power that they have through their own education is theirs to figure out how it works best for them. If you want to go to work for a Google or an Amazon or JP Morgan Chase, that's awesome. If you have aspirations of building your own thing and starting your own companies, that's amazing. But the power is within you. And it's about your mindset, and it's ensuring that you have built the educational foundation for yourself that will open the doors that need to be open for you. We do a lot of work with communities. In Jersey City, we hosted a half-day event with an elementary school class, a 4th grade class at a STEM school that came in, spent half a day with us, hearing about technology and what technology means at JP Morgan Chase. And it's not just coding, right? There's so many more things. And to see those 4th graders at the end of the day spend time coming up with software solutions to environmental problems was just amazing. I mean, these are fourth graders, right?
Wow.
But they're getting it already. Their whole school is science, technology, engineering, and math focused. And we've got to start tapping into these avenues, to these channels, to these resources, and getting young people involved and really excited about technology as early as possible. And because we sit in the tri-state area, we have the opportunity to partner with organizations like We Build Black and so many others. And we're not just writing dollars. We're not just, sponsoring to see our names in a program. We're showing up with recruiters. We're showing up with hiring managers. We're showing up with experts in many different fields. And we're starting to ensure that it's not just a one-way street. JP Morgan Chase gets to put their name on something. Because listen, Jamie Dimon will tell you, you can see Chase on a whole bunch of buildings. But if the people in those buildings aren't making a difference in those communities, then why are we there?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we there?
Right.
I 100% agree about like starting young. One of my founders, Rome, he actually talked about this where he has this theory. Well, it's not even really a theory, but the fact that, in a lot of other countries, they start their children young in terms of learning coding. So that by the time that they get to high school, they've already got like a college level understanding of this thing, by the time that they're at college level, they might as well just go get the job. So, there's that aspect of it. But I think there's not only that importance, but I view the amount of people in tech in terms of like senior and, mid-level and junior as a sort of like pyramid, right? And the reason that I think that is because like, okay, you've got your seniors at the top and your mid-levels in the middle and your juniors at the bottom, which is that largest portion. And the reason is because at the end of the day, a lot of us are realizing how great of a career this is, and there's actual education and starting to become programs like this that are directed at us, bringing us into the industry, right? But at the end of the day, we can't necessarily say that we only want to hire these mid-level and these senior levels and not focus at all on the mentorship of those below, right? Because that's how you, at the end of the day, increase the pool, right? Like you can't just ignore these people and then say, well, there'll be some more senior and mid-level Black people at some point. They'll just come from where, like you have to actually nurture that audience. So,
right. You have to retain them.
Agreed.
And that's why I think retention is so important. You have to retain that talent, and you have to nurture that talent, and you have to mentor that talent. You have to coach that talent. You have to sponsor that talent, which is probably the one thing that we don't see a lot of in our community. We don't see a lot of sponsorship in the sense where, and just to kind of, I want to level set. When I'm talking about sponsorship in this avenue, I mean someone who will stand in a room for you, the rooms that you're not in, and say your name. You have to have that kind of, but you have to build those relationships. It's a lot harder because people tend to want to have relationships with people that look like them. Right. So you've got to take that and make sure that people are focusing on people who have the talent. So you're asking, and you're providing programs that give them visibility. Your junior people are, I'm sure people Will has Black young developers can come to him and they can see, okay, so I see there's a Will and I can talk to a Will, and being open and having that stuff open and having those lines of communication open. Those kind of things are extremely important.
Right. So I'm partnered with like Ann in the past, and we've done demystifying how to get to VP, right? So we do those things to try to open it up. It wasn't just targeted to minorities, but I don't know what do we say? It was sponsored by, and we did something where we just to open up the floor to people who have been overlooked, right? To help. And I enjoyed it because it was a good conversation, because you'd be surprised at how many people just don't know the process, and they were like floored. I got so many people come back to me after that session, and saying that really helped me, that really, I had no idea, like, because there's a lot of guerrilla tactics to getting promoted, right? They just didn't have any idea, to some of the things that they could have done. So we are doing those things. It's just, I don't know if I see it all across the firm just yet, but I think we are doing them. Anne's been a great champion in helping kind of like bring folks to the table. She recruited me. She's like, well, you need to be involved in this. Come over here, So we do have people around the firm that are trying to do that. But look, I think in the leadership role that I feel like I'm in, I do feel that responsibility of trying to bring more folks into the fold and be that advocate and be that mentor. Again, I'm speaking for myself. I don't know if all folks at that mid-level or senior level feel that same burden or feel that same, and I don't even really like to use the word burden, but I still feel like it's a responsibility. Too much is given, much is required. And that's how I feel. That's just how I live. I don't look at it as a burden. I love and I enjoy working with young folks and helping them say, this is how you navigate this, right? Because a lot of folks, even it could be just a simple email, right? They just don't know how to craft that in a way that's powerful and gets the message across. They'll write this long paragraph and it'll be like, well, what did you really want to say, right? Everything that you wanted to say was at the bottom. And, what you really wanted to say was at the top, right? So just small little things, they need to learn. But yeah, you try to do it, but we need a scalable model to do that.
And I will tell you, at least within global technology infrastructure, and all three of us do roll into GTI, we do have now a sponsorship program for VP level Black and Hispanic men.
Women, I've just got in.
We've had the sponsorship program for women at the executive director level for a while. That just got expanded out to include VP level women. The Black and Hispanic men sponsorship program just graduated their first class.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do have beyond the wills, we have lots of other managers, hiring managers, who's going to be at the tomorrow. Robin, who was reached out to me quite fortuitously just the end of last week saying, listen, I heard you're plugged into the diversity and inclusion space in Jersey City. I'm going to be building out a team over the next 10 months, 30 people, and I want to make sure there's great diversity in there. Who do I need to talk to? So, of course, I immediately got her connected to Nora. Nora got her involved in the event. And she's there tomorrow. She's got 30 recs in Jersey City she's going to be hiring over the next 10 months.
That's a lot of people. Sounds like somebody in this chat needs to hop on that. So I'm gonna open this up to Q&A because I feel like we've had a great discussion and I kind of want to give people a chance to bite in on some of the things that y'all been talking about. So it seems there's somebody named Dark Knight. That's hilarious. All right, Mr. Batman. He said, what is the wrong thing to do to get promoted? I'm going to help him out and I'm going to say, what is the wrong and right things to do to get promoted? He said it's directed at Will, but I also want to hear from everybody else here on that aspect because y'all have different paths to how you got to where you got to. And I'm sure there's, different tactics. So hit me with it.
Okay. Since it sounded like he was directing it at me. So the wrong way to get promoted. Don't look at it as a rite of passage, right? I mean, I think people have been in a company for X amount of years and say, yeah, I'm up for promotion because I've been at the firm for X years, right? Results matter. I mean, let's just face it, right? People, need to know what have you done, right? I think where I see a lot of folks fail is not promoting themselves in a very slick kind of way, not to toot your horn a little too hard, but a little note to your manager and a few of his peers of your accomplishments periodically, but don't look at it as, hey, I've been here 5 years. Like, you're entitled to being promoted. There are just some small things that you need to be able to do, communicate effectively of your accomplishments in terms of to your manager and managing up. don't feel entitled. And if you miss that promotion that you feel you're entitled to, because I've been in that boat where it's like, well, what do I need to do? Like, you're busting your butt, right? And you're still not getting promoted. Don't go to that hiring manager like side-eyed saying, look, why didn't you promote me? I think, and this is just Will, the better way to approach that conversation is, what do I need to do? What skills am I missing that I need? What are my blind spots, right, to get to that next level? That's a much more mature way of asking the same question, right? Because it doesn't come from an angle of entitlement. It comes from an angle of, look, I'm frustrated, but I still feel like maybe I have some development, right? Maybe this is not my time. But don't just take an okie doke, right? Follow up with whatever feedback you get and make sure that you understood that feedback and follow up with that manager. Say, hey, you know, when we talked a month ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, you said blah, blah, blah. And follow up with examples of how you are starting to fill that gap. So this way, the next year that promotion runs around, they can't use that as an excuse the next time, right? So that's just some, you know, just small things that I think, you know, as a person can do, is not come around like thinking that they just, you know, kind of, because it does matter. If you feel like you're entitled, people pick up on that, right? They pick up on it. You think that, you know, it's just your turn. It don't work like that.
No, not at all. I definitely agree. Monique?
Yeah, I would say the first thing I'm going to level set, because at JPMC, we are a financial institution. So there is not when people think promotion, you're thinking, oh, I'll get promoted. There are levels, right? So there's promotion. So you're an associate, you can be hired as a VP, you can be hired as an executive director, you can be hired as a managing director, and then there's the C-suite, right? So in JPMC, you have to pass quality gates to get to those. So when we talk about the right things to do to get promoted, I think at JPMC, we're running programs so people understand what those gates are, because the feedback we got were that, and this was something Jamie had pointed out, is that it's really funny that the Black people don't know what they need to do to get promoted, but the other people seem to know what they need to do to get promoted. So a lot of the programs that Ann and Will are talking about were just for doing that, to demystify why you aren't getting VP. And all those things Will said are very important to being promoted to a certain level. You have to have a certain level of maturity. You have to be able to communicate well. You have to be able to know you, build your brand. I know that's so 2020, but it is what it is. You have to know who you are as a professional and what you bring to the table. Because even if you don't get promoted, you can have that conversation with your manager and be able to say, but I checked all these off. Can you tell me? And they can, you know, help you figure out what else you might need to bring. It's a highly competitive thing. So it's kind of like college admissions. There's no right answer about who gets in and who doesn't get in. The other thing I think is important is to not be afraid to speak up if you are that person. And you know, from my time before JPMC, way back in my later in my past, I had a position where I thought I would be promoted. I was the only person who was at a certain level. I was managing people who were at a higher level than me, running huge projects. And then it came up and my manager didn't promote me. And so I asked him, I was like, why? Is there something that I didn't do correctly? Because I really expected to be promoted, because I'm the only person who's not a senior level here and I ran this whole project that is a senior level project. I delivered it on time. I did this, I did that. And he said to me, I never even thought about that. Like,
wow.
You know, so you have to be able to.
You do need to be vocal, right?
Right, you have to be vocal. You have to be able, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to be vocal because I don't want to be tagged or whatever." But if you're delivering, you're delivering. The one thing I will say is, do not think that it is just your work that speaks for itself. You need to network. It is important to network. It is important to network. It is important to toot your horn, not lay on it. Like Will said, you don't have to just be heavy-handed, but it's good to toot it, right? Because when you're not in those rooms, those people will go, oh, yeah, I remember Devin. He just told me he did a project just like that. We should see if he wants to. I should tell him about this opportunity. So a lot of it is hard work, but it is also advertisement because you're not. I've always told this, even to the young alum I work with at my alma mater. You're not gonna, if you are the kind of person who goes, I'm just working and doing my job. I put in, I deliver, and you leave every day and you don't make contact and be vocal and have a network of people who know about you. Guess what? You're going to be doing that same job very well for the next 12, 15 years.
You fit well right there, and you're not advocating for yourself. That's really what it sounds like y'all are saying, is that at the end of the day, if you don't have somebody who can advocate for you to be that person, that mentor, that sponsor that can really give you the information, as you were saying, that you may have been blocked out from, then at the end of the day, you got to advocate for self.
You do. Amen. You got to advocate for self, but don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need both. You've got to be able to advocate for yourself. We talk all the time about having your elevator pitch. So you run into the CEO of your company in the elevator, you've got 30 seconds to share what it is you do, why value to the firm. You should be able to have that conversation in any networking situation, in any opportunity when you encounter somebody who should know who you are and what you do and the value that you bring to the table. But yes, you also have to have those people who are in rooms that you will never be in when decisions are being about opportunities. And Monique is dead on when she says you've got to be out there networking. It's not just about who you know. You got to make sure that there are people who know you, who know what you bring to the table, who can speak in specificity about what you bring to the table and your value and your accomplishments, and people who, when they hear about an opportunity, can say, oh, wait, Monique would be great for that. And you know what? We just had a conversation and she's looking for an opportunity like that. So the other part of that is they have to know what you want, what you're interested in. And in order for that to happen, you have to know. I had someone call me a couple of weeks ago looking for a mentor because he wants to get promoted. I said, okay, why do you want to get promoted? Well, I want to further my career. Okay, but why is that a promotion? You can further your career by doing something different. You can further your career by leaving the firm. You can further your career in a lot of different ways. Why do you think it's a promotion? What is it about a promotion that you think is going to give you what you want or what you need? And what is it you want, by the way? And he couldn't answer that question. I said, what do you want to do next? You say you want to do something different. So what is it that you want to do next? And he couldn't answer that question. So you got to know yourself. You got to know what you want. You got to know what value you have, what skills you have, how you want to leverage those skills within a professional environment, and what are the roles within your organization that would give you those opportunities. So if you don't know, you should be doing research. Part of that is through networking. If you're in a company like JPMorgan Chase, there's tons of information about all kinds of roles and opportunities on our intranet. So you got to take some serious responsibility for what your future career looks like. And the thing that you must make sure you do is to know what it is you want and why that will be of value to you and how you can add value in those roles. Because if you can't answer those questions for yourself, you'll never be able to convince anybody else that you're the right person for an opportunity.
I think that's actually a really good transition into this next question. That's actually for you, Ann. But honestly, like I said, man, all these questions you can definitely I'm curious about everybody's perspective. She said, this is from Tracy. Can you provide insight into programs for early career coders at JPMorgan? Okay,
sure. So besides our analyst program, which is now called our software engineering program, it's for recent college grads. It's a 2-year program of development and exploration where you have the opportunity to work with a team, sometimes more than one team, to build your skills in whatever the specific area of technology that you have expertise. and be able to really start your career at JPMorgan Chase.
Mhm.
We also do, like I said, we work with a number of different organizations, Girls Who Code, All-Star Code. Those are high school level programs. We have a program called Inside Sherpa, which allows from high school age and above, students to get involved with coding projects on this platform that we've developed. You work with JPMorgan Chase software engineers, and you really get an opportunity to see what are the cool things that we're doing in technology at the firm. We also have our summer intern programs. We recently added a summer apprentice program in the US. We've had it in the UK for a while. We've expanded that now into the US. What am I missing? We got a bunch of other programs.
Got a lot. I got a lot. That's what I like to hear, though.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that they expanded that apprenticeship, because when I went to the UK, I met a good 8, 10, just in my little group that Andy Davies was managing at that time, of young folks just coming out of high school. Basically, they was still like maybe first year or mid between high school and college, the equivalent there, and they were doing apprenticeship, and they basically took them from where they didn't really have any experience. Now these guys are associates now. So, it's really important that we expand that. So I'm glad to hear that they did that.
Yeah.
Agreed. I like Dark Knight said, promotion entitles me nothing. Call me a junior and pay me over 6 figures. I hear that.
Say that again, Devin. I didn't hear the comment. What did he say?
He said, promotion entitles me nothing. Call me a junior and pay me over 6 figures. I hear that. So something that Demarius Edwards, I hope I'm saying that correct. What advice do you have for career switching software engineers? Because it sounds like, let me finish the question. For career switching software engineers who haven't had clear paths to studying essential computer science concepts via formative education and are now learning independently, right? And I think that's like a very specific question, especially for like JPMorgan Chase, as somebody who generally, at least from what we understand, focuses on people who have degrees, right? And I think that's what they're saying, is like people who come from just like paths that are not traditional, right?
Yeah, we cater to non-traditional paths. Actually, in our recruitment for our entry level in STEP, there's something called Tech Connect. And what that is people who have non-CS or software degrees who want to become programmers. So basically, you get accepted in the Tech Connect program. Your first day when you drop on campus, you get sent to a boot camp. Learn how to code Python, whatever it is, what Java, whatever language, get sent to a boot camp, and then you get onboarded to a team, and then you work entry level. However, for Demarius, I think to me, that is the life of a software engineer, because of how rapidly technology changes, that you're always pivoting. At JPMC, we allow space for people to pivot because of mobility. Mobility is one of the best things ever for me at JPMC as a career consultant, which means I am a job hopper. Before JPMC, every 2 to 3 years, I just moved. That's why I started consulting, because it was much easier to do a project, finish that project, and then look on for something else and keep the variety. What mobility does, it allows you to hop from LOB, line of business to line of business, yet keep all the tenure and all the old boomer things of having a career and a retirement and the healthcare and all of that, with all of the fun of being able to switch jobs, learn new technology, do something that you're interested in. A lot of times we'll hear, the job I'm in now is a mobility job. Before I worked in platform services, I used to work in infrastructure. So I used to work with the virtualization of the servers. Now I work in the cloud. So now I'm offering the infrastructure team, I'm now their customer. But the idea is that I think if you're an engineer of any, especially in computer science, you're going to always hop from learning a new language, whatever is the hot thing, to a new language because nothing kind of lasts for a long time. So I don't know if that necessarily is anything other than give yourself grace and be transparent about where you are, you know.
But Monique, I think his question was more geared towards somebody who maybe has the actual software engineering practice, but does not have a computer science degree or an engineering degree. Does that, basically disqualify you from working at JP Morgan Chase as a software engineer? I don't think so. And
no. And I'm looking at the question, Will, because it's in the comments. So that's why I took it that way. Yeah.
Let me give a personal experience. I can't remember how many years ago, but I was very early in my coding career. And anybody who knows me knows that I do not have a college degree. I have something called a good enough diploma, AKA GED, and I got myself here. But I got a JP Morgan Chase interview. Long story short, did not get the job, but the point is you can get through the door. And I say that to anybody who is interested in applying to a JP Morgan Chase job or any job for that matter. Do not shoot yourself in the foot before you even try to get to the door. So that's what I would say in terms of that. But Monique, you actually did touch on something which was another question. Somebody who actually did work at JP Morgan Chase before, Eric Smith Jr. He said, I worked at JP Morgan Chase for 4 years, but left after realizing I didn't see my future self at the bank in my line of business. What are your thoughts on how Black alumni can be supported after coming to this realization? Because I remember you did say something about being able to switch between line of business.
Mobility. I think that's why you have to be vocal. For me, my job, the switch I made was the same thing. I worked in the organization I was working in. And I was like, I don't know if I still want to do this 6 months down the road. I had a happenstance Skype conversation with the old coworker. And he was like, well, I was like, I'm looking for something in product. And he's like, I need a product manager. Talk to me. So that is exactly how it happened for me. But I think that's how the support for the Black alumni, if that's the case, is that you have to be verbal, and there's a little bit of, you need to go to the internet, see what's out there, see who's hiring. It is perfectly fine if you have, 4 years to me sounds like a long time, even though I'm coming up on it. But, you go, oh, okay, I wanted to try something new. Well, what's new out there? Talk to and I don't think, depending on the relationship, it's bad to talk to your manager if you've said that, because maybe your manager might have something in his place that you could do other than what you're doing right now. If it's really that what I'm doing right and this is not working for me, and asking people, anything else? I've had people ask me that now. They're like, I'm not happy where I am right now, Monique. Do you know of anything out there? So I think that's a big deal, or a good thing to do. I don't know if that's how you support Black alumni, but that's what I have. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Anybody else? Ann?
The work that we do through the business resource groups is one way that we support our Black employees and help them to recognize if there are things they should, if there are things they want to be doing differently, if they want to be in a different line of business. Networking through our business resource groups is a great way to meet people that you wouldn't otherwise encounter in your day-to-day activities, because the business resource groups are open to everybody at the firm. So at all levels, in all lines of business, and the fact that you're all part of the same business resource group means that you have some level of commonality where you can have a conversation. We also have those other affinity groups that I talked about earlier. Again, they span lines of business. They span one thing. We have within our U.S. Black and Hispanic communities an organization we call HABIT, Hispanics and Blacks in Technology. You don't have to be Hispanic, you don't have to be Black, and you don't have to be in technology to be a member of HABIT. So we've got people from literally every line of business, all walks of avenues within the firm that are parts of these organizations. And it's through these activities where you have an opportunity, maybe you have aspirations to be a manager, to be a people manager, but in your role, there's no opportunities to do that. Joining a business resource group or one of these other affinity groups and taking a leadership role there, you have the opportunity not only to develop your leadership and management skills, but to build a history of leadership and management and delivering and coming in on budget and making sure you're hitting targets and deadlines and things like that. And the people who are our executive sponsors and our operating committee sponsors for every single one of these organizations start to hear about the work that you're doing. And that's how you start to build your brand and how you start to put it, what they say, toot your own horn without blowing it. There's a book by that name. If you haven't read it, right? If you want to figure out how you can start to be your own best ambassador, get that book. That's a great place to start. So getting involved in things beyond just your day job and making sure that you're making connections and building a network of people beyond the 2 or 3 people on your team is hugely important. We all spoke during our introductions about the things that we do as our passions, right? Our Jersey City Tech Center lead calls them our plus ones. What are the things that you are doing on this campus beyond the job we pay you for that adds value to this campus? And you've got to be doing those things. You've got to find ways to do them. And if you feel as though you're in an organization where you can't even take time out to get involved in a business resource group, something's wrong.
Yeah.
That might not be the organization for you, but the best way to get out of those types of situations is through your network, leveraging your network. So even if it means you got to come in an hour early, stay an hour later, so you can spend that hour and a half during the middle of the day going to that BRG event, do it, right? Do it. Well, my manager won't let me. Well, your manager has to let you take lunch. Your manager might say you need to do an 8-hour day, but JP Morgan Chase doesn't say that those 8 hours have to be between this time and that time, unless you're providing some kind of very specific support to a region or something, right? You got to figure out ways to make time to do those things that will help you build your career.
And just to share, I do not have a technical degree. So every time I hop, I have to learn technology all over. I had to learn everything about VMware and the stack and all of that. So I have a degree in English. And then when I left, I came to support databases. So now I have to learn not only everything about cloud, because I'm new to native cloud, I got to learn everything about relational databases. It did not stop my hiring manager from hiring me though, because he thought I had the propensity to learn and understand, and I had demonstrated that I could do it. So that question around the person worrying about learning, if you can, I think I saw someone in the comments say, if you pass the technical interview, which is the code view, you're fine. That's exactly how JPMC views it. And JPMC is also, we have kind of taken on this other idea of where your technical acumen is not the be all end all. So now we do behavioral interviews that let us see if that person has a tenacity. Oh, maybe their code view wasn't that high, but when I talk to them, they demonstrated all the stuff, and there's still, hope for you in that.
Right.
Agreed. I'm sorry, Will, did you want to say something?
No, I agree with the ladies that there's more than one path there. And the way I read his question, I'm going back to Dark Knight, is that he or she, and not sure if it's a he or she, but wanted to get back into technology, but it sounded like they had stepped away. I don't know, I'm reading this question, stepped away from the business, meaning I guess technology, and now they're trying to re-enter technology. Again, what they said already is pretty much, as long as you can, do the technical interview, and even if you don't do that hot, I think there's still a chance that you could get back into the business. So And I don't think, it's an open and shut case that you can't get back into JPMC. I left and came back as well. So, I know how that rehiring process works, although I did stay within technology when I came over.
Agreed. I like to tell people exactly that, in a sense that you will, as long as you pass the technical, they know that, your actual programming acumen,
right,
par, and then two, it's harsh words, but no asshole rule, right? Like nobody wants to work with that person. So as long as you're not that and you can get past the technical interview, generally you're fine. You know what I mean? Like it's not really that hard. The hard part is what you would think it is the hard part, right? Like after that, you just sit down, like being a regular person. They're just like, okay, as long as this individual doesn't say anything like strikingly wild to me, then like I think they're a good fit, right? So I'm gonna make that the last question because I think we've been here for like an hour and 15 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of y'all time. I know y'all are very busy. So, and if there's anything that y'all want to say to address the crowd before we leave, I'll give y'all the floor now. Anybody?
So I saw the imposter syndrome question, and I do want to talk about that because I think that, and I'll end on it. It says the one that says, "Can you talk about how to handle imposter syndrome as a developer of an underrepresented group?" First of all, we all deal with the imposter syndrome, even if we're not developing underrepresented, right? I think the first thing to know, and I want you guys to know as technologists, is that we started this STEM thing. Don't let people think and tell you that science and technology and engineering and math is not a Black thing. There are Egyptians, there are NASA computers, there are a whole legacy of innovators in the technology space that are Black, that look like us, that we've been doing this forever. And so and I think for me, and this is what I do about imposter syndrome, is I remind myself every day of all of the successes I've already had and come through, because that's what you really got to do. You got to talk yourself out of this mindset of not being worthy. I think it is something that happens to the Black diaspora, especially the American Black diaspora. We have a problem with understanding our worth because we built a country for 400 years, and we built everything out here. Comes back to us. All the generational wealth comes back to the Black bodies on the plantation that built everything. So we are worthy. You are worthy. And it's fine if you don't know something. That doesn't mean you're an imposter. It means you're human. And it was great talking to you guys.
Right.
I enjoyed the panel. I thought it was very empowering. I love to give back. I want folks to see JPMC as a place that they can come and thrive. I enjoyed the conversation with my colleagues. I'm looking forward to doing another session with you, Devin, anytime.
Great. Ann?
Yep. Thanks for having us. It has been a great deal of fun. I can't believe that an hour and 17 minutes has actually passed by that quickly. It certainly didn't seem like it. I was having such a good time. For those of you who are on the phone, if technology is what you're interested in, and I presume it is, don't overlook JP Morgan Chase. We have opportunities for you to do anything within technology that you might want to do, whether it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, if it's big data, if it's cloud. We have it all at JP Morgan Chase, and there's opportunities for you at JP Morgan Chase. If you aren't already signed up for the demos for tomorrow, sign up, come and see some of the really cool stuff that we're doing. Hopefully you're also signed up for, are we doing interviews at all?
Yeah, there's like, I guess, what is it? Like get to know you sessions. I don't know if you consider them full year, but we will be looking forward to having folks come back, right, when there's a connection.
So there's get to know you sessions at the end of the presentations tomorrow, but there's also, if you read the Eventbrite, everybody, I put the Eventbrite in the comment. I'll also attach it to the description afterwards as well. But basically you'll see in the description of that Eventbrite, there is a form there, a form link that will essentially be for putting your resumes, because they will actually reach out if you're a fit for an interview. So don't just show up tomorrow. Put your information in that form link in the Eventbrite. You will make sure that we actually get to you.
For the get to know you sessions, because there will be hiring managers in those sessions.
Yes. Thanks for reminding them, and because I've encouraged my peers to show up and make sure that they come. And having the resume is also very good, because that gives them a kind of a profile of who you are and what your background is. Definitely encourage that, right? Definitely encourage that, because then that helps the manager and the conversation flow.
And then also, you just want people to know who you are, be able to put a face to your resume.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times it made all the difference, man. Like,
absolutely,
literally going up to a person and talking to them has got me interviews. Like, literally, iHeartMedia. Like, I had a conversation with a guy about the red Pumas we were both wearing, and that got me an interview. Okay, like, talk to people. Make sure that you get that FaceTime. To Monique's point about imposter syndrome, I just wanted to touch on that real quick, because that is something that I've lived through, at a really early stage in my career, and I try to do everything I can to make sure it's minimized within my community and my people. What I will say from a historical perspective, you actually touched on this already. If you go to the We Build Black Instagram and you scroll pretty far to, I want to say about Black History Month last year, we literally, I want to say almost every day, put up a post of a different Black person who created something within technology, and you would not believe the things we've created. I'm talking about the technology that makes ACs work, to the pixels on your screen. All of these things were created by Black people. The only difference is that we did not sell it. So once again, making that socioeconomic change, we're learning. So don't think at all that you can't be that next person that creates something just like a pixel, because that thing is important. It's the reason you're looking at me right now. Okay. So there's that.
Navigate your day without, if you took everything invented by Black people out of the world, you couldn't navigate your day. You can turn on your lights, you can set your security system, you can go through a stoplight. It's unreal how much we've contributed.
100%. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure that you go to the day 2 tomorrow, to the tech showcase. I'm going to put that inside of the comments, and I'm also going to put it in the description as well if you haven't RSVP'd already. But make sure that you tune in. Make sure that you put your resume in that form link if you're looking for a job, and honestly, only just put it there if that's the last your last resort. I 100% implore you to put your resume in there and show up to the tech showcase, because like they said, those hiring managers will be there and you need that FaceTime. So that being said, everybody enjoy their night.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.